How many of you enjoy a good plate of lasagna? Pretty sure all of us do. Today's recipe is for low-carb lasagna, but it's a little bit different than your traditional low-carb lasagna recipe. Most low-carb lasagna recipes are made with zucchini. This recipe is made with jicama. Jicamas are awesome. You can use them for just about anything, and they make an excellent lasagna. And if you want a printable version of this, then check out my website at janetsdeliciouslowcarbkitchen.com. You'll find a printable version of this recipe and other goodies there for you. Also, if you're new to my channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Also, hit the little notification bell. That way you can be notified every time I put out a new video. And while you do that, let's get cooking. To start off, you're going to need to preheat your oven to around 375, and then you're going to need to spray a 3-quart 13x9 casserole dish. This is where you're going to have your lasagna. And then we're going to start by making a light meat marinara sauce. This is not anything super fancy, just a real quick light one. So first off, you're going to need a ½ pound of ground meat, either ground turkey, ground pork, ground sausage, ground beef, some type of ground meat. I'm going to use ground turkey because I'm not a huge red meat fan. So you're going to turn this on medium, and you're going to season it a little bit with a little bit of seasoning salt. Seasoned salt, not just regular salt. A little bit of seasoned pepper. Just a little bit, just enough to taste. You don't want to overpower with pepper. A little bit of onion powder, and this is just to your taste again. You know, you're not drowning it. You're just giving your meat just a hint of taste if you don't buy it already pre-seasoned. If you buy Italian sausages, 9 times out of 10, you don't really have to put a whole lot of seasoning in it. But ground turkey, yes. Chop it all up. Make sure you mix all those seasonings all in with it. While you're letting that brown, we're going to go ahead and make our filling. And what you're going to need, you're going to need 3/4 cup of cottage cheese for your filling, a 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese, and I don't mean the type that's in the can. Grated Parmesan in a can is not real Parmesan. So I mean freshly grated right off a block of Parmesan cheese right out of your refrigerator. Make sure you stir your meat every now and then. Make sure it's not browning on one side. So your 3/4 cottage cheese, your 1/4 shredded Parmesan, 1 egg. This just helps bind all of your ingredients together so you have a little bit thicker consistency. Mix this all up just until your yolk is broke and everything's evenly distributed. Once you have that all evenly distributed, then just set your bowl aside. You'll be using that later when we put the lasagna all together. Next, we're going to make a quick marinara sauce to pour over our meat. Now, if you want to, you can get a pre-made marinara sauce. You'll just need about a little over 2 cups of the sauce. But this marinara sauce will only take a couple minutes. You don't even have to pre-cook it. Just mix it all together. So in a medium mixing bowl, combine a 15-ounce can of tomato sauce, an 8-ounce can of tomato paste, 1 teaspoon garlic powder, a ½ teaspoon dry basil, 1 teaspoon dry oregano, 1 teaspoon onion powder, seasoned salt and seasoned pepper to your taste. Whisk it all together until it's fully combined and the sauce is smooth. Remember, all these seasonings can be adjusted according to your personal taste, so you can put more or less depending on how you like it. Also, make sure that your meat is completely cooked and drained off of any fat before you add the sauce to it. If you're using beef especially, you'll need to drain off that fat. Ground turkey doesn't usually produce too much fat, so you don't have to worry about that so much, but the ground beef, you definitely want to make sure that's completely drained of the fat before you add the sauce. Otherwise, you'll get a nasty, greasy, watery sauce. We don't want that. So after you've mixed all the sauce ingredients together, then pour the sauce over your meat and stir it to fully coat the meat. Make sure the meat's fully coated with the sauce. After it's mixed all together, then bring the sauce to a low boil, just barely starting to bubble. Then cover it and turn the heat down to the lowest setting and let it simmer while you prepare the jicama and the remaining ingredients. To prepare the jicama, trim off the top and the bottom of 2 medium jicamas. Then trim down one of the sides so you can have a flat surface to balance the jicama on. If you're chopping something that's round by hand, you always want to make sure you trim down one of the sides to create a flat surface. That way it doesn't roll away on you and you don't risk such a big risk of chopping your fingers off. So make sure that surface is flat, and you'll know that it's flat enough when it's able to stand up on its own. So you shouldn't have to hold it, place it on your countertop. If it stands up on its own, then it should be flat enough. Peel the jicama completely with a vegetable peeler or a sharp knife. Make sure you get the peeling completely off because it has a bitter taste, so you do not want to have any little speck of the peeling on your jicama. And now we're going to come to the somewhat tricky part of thinly slicing our jicama. If you have a mandolin slicer, that's ideal for these. I don't use a mandolin slicer because they scare me and I have had bad experiences with them. Anybody who knows me knows exactly what I'm talking about with my bad experience. So I just use a good old chef's knife. The chef knives are wonderful. So if you are using the chef knife like I am, find that side that you flattened. So this is standing on its own, so I know it's flat enough, I know it's secure enough. Then we're going to very, very thinly slice our jicama. Be careful when you slice it because jicama can be a little tricky and be a little hard to slice, so be very careful. Just make sure you slice it thinly and make sure it is sliced into thin rounds, as thin and as uniform as you can get them. Of course, we don't ask for perfection ever because we're not professionals, but we want to get as close as we can to uniform circles. You're going to want nice, thin pieces. It's almost see-through. Keep slicing until the whole jicama is thinly sliced. Once we've sliced all that, we're going to start building our lasagna. So you're going to take some of your jicama and you're just going to line the bottom of that 3-quart casserole dish that we already prepared. So you may not even use all of the jicama that you prepared depending on how big your jicamas were. So just enough to line the bottom of this. Line the jicama on the bottom of the dish and slightly overlap the edges of the jicama rounds. If you find around the edges that you have any empty spaces, then use any extra strips or misshaped pieces that you might have from the jicama to cover the gap. Basically, you don't want any gaps in the bottom of your baking pan. You're going to take about half of your sauce mix and just lightly spread it across the jicama. Lightly spread it over the top just until the jicama is all covered with about half the sauce. Once you've gotten the sauce over that, give your cottage cheese mixture a little stir, and then you're going to spread it on top of the sauce. If you feel you need more cottage cheese in there, you can always add a couple more spoonfuls. It really just all depends on how much you want in there. Just remember, it's not supposed to be a thick, massive layer of cottage cheese in between there. It's just a nice, thin layer on top of the sauce. After you finish spreading the cottage cheese, take the rest of your jicama and you're going to just cover the top of the cottage cheese with it. Again, if you don't use all your jicama, it's okay. You can put it in a plastic container in your refrigerator and use it at another time. So just enough to cover the top of the cottage cheese. Do the same thing that you did with the bottom, just slightly overlap. It's okay if all your pieces did not come out uniform, perfect sizes. Mine never do. If you use a mandolin slicer, you have more of a chance of them coming out nice and even. But as I said, I don't use it because I'm scared of them. So mine are never all perfectly uniform, but you know, it's not about so much perfection. It's just about it looking good and working for us. So you want it just like you did with the bottom, where there's no gaps in between the jicama, not piled on top of each other, just barely overlapping on the sides where there's no gaps. After you've got that nice layer, then you're going to use the rest of your sauce and top your jicama. Just a nice thin layer of sauce. Now remember, everything when it comes to cooking is all your discretion. How much sauce you want to use, how much cheese you want to use, how much flavor seasonings. It's all to what you like. So you can adjust any of this as you want it. This is just to give you a general idea of what you can do with this jicama. It's just awesome stuff. Once you've covered all of your jicama, then you're going to take 2 cups of shredded mozzarella and top your sauce with that. And again, how much cheese you want on it is all up to you. I like cheese, so 2 cups generally works pretty good for me. Just sprinkled across the top. Loosely cover it with foil, bake it at that 375 degrees for about 30 minutes. Once that's baked for 30 minutes, you're going to uncover it. Ooh, that's hot and smells good. You're going to uncover it, and then you're going to put it back in there at that 350 and bake it for 5 more minutes, just enough to get the cheese a little bit browned. Once that's done baking for that 5 minutes at 375, take it out of the oven, and it smells incredible right now. You have no idea. It's making me so hungry. But resist that urge to just dig in. When things first come out of the oven, as I've said before, they are still cooking. So do not dig right in. Let this sit for about 10 to 15 minutes, not only for it to finish cooking and cool down, but that helps all the flavors just to soak in for a few more minutes. So let it sit for 10 to 15 minutes, then eat all you want. And that's our recipe of the day. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like and subscribe button. You can leave me a comment if you'd like to, and let me know if there's any recipes that you'd like to learn how to make, and I will do what I can to get them out there for you. And as always, keep cooking.